The cool thing about being an astrologer of age is getting to track transits through the cycles and patterns of your own lived experience. This Saturday, January 11th, 2025, the North Node moves into Pisces. And guess who's been here before? Cackles in old sea witch wisdom. Come on in, let me learn ya a thing or two about it, Sonny. Oh, hi, Cosmic Cuties. It is your friendo, the Lady Ms. Vagina Jenkins. And that's right, so this week I want to talk about the North and South Node, what it means. I also want to talk about the North Node moving into Pisces on January 11th and how that puts the South Node in Virgo and what that could mean for everyone. And I want to talk about my experience with the nodes in a couple of different signs. So if that sounds good to you, then come on in, pull up a seat, grab a bag of popcorn. So first and foremost, the North and South Nodes, what are they? So they aren't actually like planetary placements, you know, like you're not going to be able to see them with your eye. What they are is more of a calculation. You know how astrologers are always talking about, yes, it's important to know your planetary placements, but how are they interacting with the other placements in your chart? And how do they continue to interact with placements as they are unfolding in the sky? And so the North Node is kind of one of those first lessons that you get to learn about the interaction of planets. So the North Node is calculated because of the interaction between the luminaries, the moon and the sun. So the sun has its own path in the sky. We call that the ecliptic. And the moon has its own path in the sky, as do all of the other planetary placements. But where the moon intersects with the path of the sun, those mark the North and South Nodes. The most northern point in the intersection between the moon and the sun is called the North Node, and the most southern point where the moon's path intersects with the path of the sun is called the South Node. Because so much of the sun can be understood as our motivations or the things that we aspire to in life, and the moon can be so much about our past life experiences, subconscious experiences, navigating the world through a sense of feeling and intuition. It's due to these two interpretations of the moon and the sun that when we think about the moon and the sun's paths intertwining, we think about destiny. And so the North Node and South Node are named as points of destiny in the chart. Now, as an astrologer who believes in free will, I have a slightly tweaked definition for the North Node and South Node. To me, it seems as if the North Node is a place that we can expand our emotional selves into, a place that might grow over the course of our lifetimes. Whereas I think about the South Node as a place of emotional comfort that we might need to grow out of, in the same way that like a snake sheds its skin. It will become slightly uncomfortable over time and something that we need to like break out of and leave behind. So either way, it's growing pains, but is it the growing pain of sitting in a place that's too comfortable for too long, or is it the growing pain of stretching to imagine and expand into more? That's what the North Node, South Node is dealing with. On a lot of charts, you will see the North Node marked as a kind of like horseshoe or crab-shaped symbol. And sometimes they won't mark the South Node. It's just understood that these placements always come in pairs. And if the North Node is at 5 degrees of Aries, then that means that the South Node is going to be at 5 degrees of the opposite sign of Aries, which is Libra. We're just wrapping up a phase in which Aries was on the North Node and Libra was on the South Node. So what everyone may have experienced, society at large or the collective, there may have been an experience of is growing a sense of selfhood, growing a sense of self-agency and self-advocacy, understanding that it is appropriate sometimes to put one's self first. And then with the South Node in Libra, we may have come to realize the ways in which certain connections to people, relationships, friend groups, business associates, we may have come to realize the ways in which some of those relationships have not been serving us. Just more generally, just come to a understanding about the ways in which you want to do relationship and the ways that no longer serve you and your best interest as you're thinking about how you relate to other folks. And then to understand where this might be playing out in your chart, in your life, look for the Aries and Libra houses. Where do you find them in your chart? And have you experienced growth in your Aries house? And what have you experienced in terms of releasing, letting go, winnowing in terms of the Libra house of your chart? So yeah, look for the Aries Libra axis in your chart to understand what might have grown, the Aries North Node side, and what might have been released in terms of the Libra South Node side. For me, this was happening in my 5th and 11th house axis. So my arts practice absolutely has blown up. Definitely over the last year and a half, I went from using acrylic paint to using oil paint, which leveled up my arts making practice. I have learned new skills in terms of realism, in terms of portraiture, and playing with color in really unique ways. And yeah, I set out a few years ago to find my artistic voice, and I definitely feel like I am well into that journey because of the experiences of the last year and a half or so. At the same time, I definitely have lost some social connections. In order to prepare for this transit, because I knew that the arts part was going to be so much and that I might be losing people, I tried to connect with people through my creativity and my arts practice. And, you know, that was a strategy. I don't know that it necessarily helped me keep relationships. And I say that because my arts practice is so much more important to me than like anything else in my life, that I could ignore people harming my person, my soul, my sense of myself, but I could not ignore the disregard for my arts practice. And that winnowed a lot of relationships out of my life. Now, so that's the time that we've been experiencing the last 18 months. North Node in Aries. Now, some of y'all might be curious, what happens in the opposite scenario? What happens when the North Node is in Libra and the South Node is in Aries? Well, that happened February 2014 through November of 2015. And I, an old sea witch, was there. Let me tell you all about it. For me, the North Node in Libra was very much, well, first of all, I had a really good friend, a Libra friend who was white, who allowed me to use their social network to secure like my first like real grown-up jobby job. They were a grant writer. Or rather, I think that they would probably title themselves like a fundraising professional. And they got me hooked up on a job where I was doing grant writing. And so, yeah, when the North Node was in Libra, that part of my life expanded. I was exposed to a whole new social network because of that work. And so many like professional connections that were made. And so it was really interesting to me that a Libra helped guide me into this new business commerce community, because Libra is so much associated with commerce. So that's what was happening for me during that North Node in Libra time. And I also have to say that because of this new job and having limited spoons and capacities, I was not able to do my own arts practice, and instead had to like focus on like grant writing, professional relationships, that kind of stuff. And my own arts practice went on the back burner. So yeah, definitely my 11th house grew while my 5th house of creative self-expression kind of had to be released, waned, but I was able to come back to it when the nodes reversed. And so that's why I wanted to share that experience, because what I experienced the last year and a half was the nodal reversal. And I think a lot of times people will be like, oh, a nodal reversal, that sounds scary. Everything is opposite. You must have had so much stress. And I would say, actually, no. My comfort zone of, my South Node in Aries grew. And it was a really different experience to when I had the nodal return back in 2014 when the North Node was in Libra and they were synced up with my natal North Node. I got to expand that area of my life, but it did not feel as if it was actually aligned with who I am and what I am meant to be doing in this world. I think that I am supposed to be gathering my own people, but people that are authentic to who I am, not just random professional connections, if that makes any sense. So I'm grateful for this last year and a half as a sort of reversal to the work that was done in 2014-15, if that makes any sense. I will also talk about the time period where the North Node was in Virgo directly after that. So that was the time between November of 2015 and March of 2017. So then the North Node in Virgo definitely made my career pop off. This was all happening in my 10th house. So career, public reputation were the things that got expanded. And then opposite of that is the 4th house, South Node in Pisces. And so that meant that a lot of my 4th house stuff was released. I got kicked out of cooperative housing during this time. Living with white folks. That's my bad. That is my bad. I should have known better. But yeah, definitely got kicked out of cooperative housing, was so anxious, so stressed out about that. And I have to say, in retrospect, when things are falling apart, let them fall apart so you can get to the better stuff faster. That has definitely been the story of my Sagittarius rising experience. Your mileage might vary. But yeah, I was so worried about losing my 1 bedroom out of 6 bedrooms, living with white people that didn't wash the floors, and so they always had dirty feet. Oh God. Random strangers in and out the house at all hours of the night. Yeah, I was holding on to that, and now I live in a solo situation, which is so much better for my nervous system. I know who's going to be in my house or not in my house at any given time. I wash the floors. I wash the dishes. It's really nice and peaceful. And I wish that I had not held on to that raggedy situation for so long. So yeah, that was the North Node in Virgo time. And what we are going to experience starting January 11th is the opposite of that. The North Node will be in Pisces and the South Node will be in Virgo. So I'm really excited to experience some new housing stuff, some expansion of my housing stuff. Yeah, I am a person who has been looking towards greener pastures for a better housing situation. So knock on wood that is something that I will definitely experience during the next year and a half. And then in terms of what might be released, some stuff around my career, public reputation, I'm curious about what that's going to look like. I definitely know that I want to release any association with previous versions of myself that were rooted in performance art. And I would say the external gaze and the desire for external affirmation. No. I would also love to release any vestiges of grant writing. I am not going back to that industry, nor do I ever care to. But you know what? I may be releasing an ebook about my grant writing experience, so maybe that's part of this releasing of the public reputation stuff. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it will go. And then, yeah, for everybody, I imagine that for everybody, I'm imagining that growing the Pisces area of one's chart is going to be about understanding that we are all connected, like at a spiritual level, understanding spirituality and prioritizing spirituality in our life. Maybe even stuff around prioritizing art and creativity, since Venus is exalted in Pisces. Yeah, I expect stuff like that to grow. I expect that for everyone, we might release some of the perfectionist tendencies, might release some of our self-critique or our need to critique others, cancel others, exist in this kind of carceral space, and instead understand the ways in which we're just all connected in our humanity. Yeah. And then for, each individual person, check out where you have Pisces and Virgo in your chart to understand that the Pisces part of the thing might grow a little bit, and the Virgo part of the thing might have to, experience some loss or releasing or some winnowing or some self-selection. Yeah, those kinds of things. By the way, the North Node is going to be in Pisces from January 11th of 2025 to July 26th of 2026. So about a year and a half that we get to experience this transit. Also keep in mind that if you have any planets in Virgo and Pisces, or any angles, for me it's the midheaven and the IC, this might hit you a little bit more acutely, or you might feel it more acutely than, others that don't have those planetary placements or planetary angles there. Give a holler if you need any help in figuring this out for yourself. I'll definitely look at your chart with you. I love doing that kind of work. It is my favorite to do. Speaking of work, if you would like to support me in my work of creating content here on YouTube, please consider becoming a member of this channel. Membership starts at $3.99 a month. You get really cool perks like custom emojis and loyalty badges, and you get to see content before it's published to the general public. That monthly commitment seems like a bit much for you. I absolutely understand. Please consider just doing a one-time tip via the thanks button below. And if both of those options are outside your capacity, please understand that I get it. Just continue to talk to me, comment, like, share my stuff with your peoples. That kind of support goes a long way as well. At any rate, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for engaging with my content. And thank you for making time for queer astrology.